It's about 20 degrees out this morning. I think the time is right to look at some heat options. We're also going to look at the subject of carbon monoxide. I found something that was pretty shocking to me about carbon monoxide detectors. You definitely want to watch that portion of this video. A highlight of this video is going to be a real close look at a compact portable butane heater. It works really well for remote camping where there's a limited amount of power available. Here's a collection of what we carry and use depending on the situation. Let's take a look at each one of the options. We have a portable power station that we can use to run this small 110 electrical heater, 250 watts. If we run it for 5 or 10 minutes, it will take the chill off the inside of the teardrop, but it's not a great option for warming the entire cab. This 12-volt electric blanket is machine washable, and it works well for warming us up, but it doesn't really warm up the interior space. It's probably the most efficient use of 12-volt electricity. Next up is 110 thermostat controlled heater. It has a high and a low. This one, the maximum is 1500 watts, so it's a pretty powerful little compact heater. It easily warms the interior space of our teardrop, but it really needs to be plugged into the trailer when the trailer is plugged into shore power. We also use this little heater to keep our teardrop warm and dry during storage. Just sits up here on the shelf. Set the thermostat. Well, this is currently our favorite little heater. It runs off of a butane fuel canister. It runs about 6 hours on one butane fuel canister. It puts out plenty of heat to warm our trailer up in freezing conditions within about 20 minutes. The catalytic heater runs off of the common green cans. We have two regulators for this catalytic heater. The other regulator is for the full-size tank that's attached to the side of our trailer. It's important to note that both of these type of fueled heaters, like all fueled heaters, requires ventilation inside of an enclosed space. The catalytic heater is a little more sensitive to dirt, dust, and debris. You don't want the pad to be contaminated. There's actually a chemical reaction that takes place between the propane and this pad, and it's important to keep this clean and dust-free. We found a tool bag that this catalytic heater fits into. Keeps it clean and easy to pack. If we ever planned a long-term trip that was going to include some extreme cold, we would bring this catalytic heater. Otherwise, it's been replaced by the compact butane heater. It's pretty cold this morning. We're going to test the butane fuel system with the little Cupid heater and see how it does in these kind of temperatures. Let's find out. Where is it today? This morning it's almost 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll set up and see how this little heater works in the cold. The gas canister and the heater both were stored last night in an unheated space. They've been sitting out here for a while. The heater's actually resting on top of a bucket of frozen water. And I'm going to connect things and see if it lights up. Okay, we have the gas canister inserted. Push, twist, and ignite, ignite, ignite. Okay, it's not working. I can smell gas and I can see a very faint spark. What we need to do now is turn this to the off position. There we go. And remove the canister and warm it up. Okay, I've had the fuel can in my front pocket for a few minutes, and I believe it would be above 32 degrees at this point. So let's try this again. There's a sight hole, and the can fits into that slot right there, pushes in, and then twists, and that locks it into place. Okay, so turn it on. You have to depress the selector to get it to turn. That prevents it from accidentally being turned on. Turn it on, and there it is. First try. First try. The temperature is set to high, and it is putting out heat. Okay, we're just going to let this run for a little while. Just about 20 degrees outside, and it's working great. Well, the little heater's been running for at least a half an hour, and I don't think the flame is going to go out. The canister apparently is being kept above freezing just by the heat that's surrounding the heater. For sure, if it was in a teardrop trailer or another small space, the interior space would be warmed up by now. That would keep the fuel can from dropping below 30 degrees. That's where the problem lies. It's not the stove, it's the fuel canister. If this butane fuel canister drops below 30 degrees, then the contents is actually going to be a liquid rather than a gas. So it won't ignite, it won't burn, it just won't work well until that canister is warmed above freezing. You saw the results. It fired right up. I know that at higher altitudes there's been reports of the igniter not working real well. With a reduced amount of oxygen, it's harder to ignite the butane, and so the little electrode spark doesn't quite have enough kick. We carry this in our trailer to light our propane stove and also campfires, and it's just our universal lighter. It has a flexible head and a nice long reach, and it just works great for lighting the propane stove. Turn it on, push the button, and it creates a little lightning bolt. But I didn't need to use that in this case, but it's probably a good idea to carry something like this. Just slip in the top corner here, and that would do the trick. Here's how we modify the shelf slide. There's a couple of keepers that hold the shelf in place from the bottom side. Just remove those and slide out the shelf. We need to remove about 1/4 inch along this side and stop just prior to the fastener insert. I'll be using a table saw to make the cut, but it could be accomplished using a portable jigsaw or even a handsaw. I'll finish the cut using a portable jigsaw. And that's all there is to it. This trimmed edge allows the shelf to pass partway through to the inside of the trailer. Using this setup, I find that this clamp is an important part of the safety. Prevents the heater from being knocked off of the shelf. Having it in this position here also directs the heat a little more straight out rather than up towards the ceiling, so that's helpful. And the ceiling itself is warm, but it's not hot. The side walls, again, are just warm. It's important, no matter how you set up your heaters, to make sure that they're not going to cause any severe heat to surfaces. These types of heaters produce water vapor and use oxygen. If oxygen levels become low, they can also produce dangerous levels of carbon monoxide. We ventilate to get rid of water vapor and also to supply fresh oxygen. We don't ventilate to get rid of carbon monoxide. With sufficient oxygen and complete combustion, no carbon monoxide is produced. We like to crack each window at least an inch and also crack open the roof vent. Typically there's no reason to use the power. There's enough cross ventilation and heat rising to escape, which will prevent condensation and carbon monoxide. Our trailer is also equipped with a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide alarm. But I found something pretty shocking about these alarms. I did some digging and learned that the vast majority of them do not work below a temperature of 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This common limitation can be found in the product manuals and sensor data sheets. Another fact that can be easily missed is that these alarms have a limited lifespan, and depending on the make and model, it can range from 5 years to 10 years. Another confusing part is near the end of its lifespan, some of these will start to beep. And the problem is they also start to beep when the battery's low. It is something to be aware of, and if you have any doubt about your carbon monoxide detector, whether or not it's working, you can set it a few feet away from a car exhaust and it should go off within a minute or two. This little handheld detector works down to 14 degrees. It also displays the actual parts per million, where this type just sounds an alarm at predetermined levels. These are fine in the home where it's not likely to drop below 40 degrees, but in a camp trailer, that can easily happen, and that's when you may want to use some type of portable heater. So I recommend getting this type of a device to alert you during low temperatures. This is what it looks like in normal operation mode. The 0 means there's 0 parts per million of carbon monoxide detected. The little heart flashes showing you that this is a healthy environment, and this battery indicator shows us that the battery is full. Unlike the common household alarm, this one will flash after 60 seconds of being within that range of 10 to 24 parts per million. At 25 to 49, there'll be a second alarm. At greater than 50 parts per million, there'll be a third alarm, and the red light will flash with an audible and backlight turning on. So it has 3 levels of alarm, unlike this type here that does nothing until it's at 70 parts per million. It runs off of a button cell battery behind this little door, and the battery will last for about 6 months. To see this in action, I'm going to start the butane heater. Here's what the test setup looks like. Now let's close off the ventilation and we'll see what happens. It took about 15 minutes with the windows closed and the vents closed for this to reach 25 parts per million. It's not super loud, but it's definitely annoying enough to get your attention. And the part per million is still rising. The next level of alarm is due to go off at 50 parts per million. I do not want to subject myself to that. So I've opened the windows and I'll turn on the fan and see how fast we can clear the air. That was pretty fast. It just took a matter of seconds. The level is dropping like a rock. And you can see that we're still running the heater. And the parts per million are dropping rapidly. And we're down to 0. And I've started another test. It's about 27, 28 degrees outside. I really like this setup. It's a great little heater. I think that the clamp on the shelf, in our circumstance, it would be different depending on your own teardrop. It works great. I think this handheld CO gas alarm detector is probably a must for running this sort of heat. Do not rely on one of these. They're just not designed for low temperatures. Other than that, I feel like it's completely safe. Apparently the right amount of ventilation is 1.5 inches on this side and 1 inch maybe on this side. It would depend on how much breeze there is. It's a very calm day. It's below freezing out. It's probably in the 20s. But in the teardrop, it's holding at 68 degrees with a humidity of 39%, which is just perfect. On low, it's nearly dead quiet. There's low, and here's high. And there's no obnoxious odors. Here's what it looks like with the lights turned off. It seems to put out just the right amount of heat for a small area like this teardrop. It takes up very little space. It's about 1/3 the size of a buddy heater would be up into here, and it's just a lot more compact than a buddy heater.